चुपके चुपके रात दिन आंसू बहाना याद है। चुपके चुपके रात दिन आंसू बहाना याद है। हमको अब तक आशिकी का वो ज़माना ना याद है। चुपके चुपके रात दिन आंसू बहाना याद है। Live on YouTube, live on LinkedIn, live on WhatsApp, and here we go. We are ready. We're ready to have the show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. I hope it's clear. Let's see, seems like the camera is a bit clear. Better now? Yeah. Very nice. Can you hear me, folks? I can see somebody joining in. If you can hear me, say something. Good morning, buddy, says Mr. Magesh Mani. Good morning. I guess you can hear me. And so we shall begin. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis that don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! But before we go, gotta follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition. You know the sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail, every day. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I like some hot water with black pepper in it. And here we go. Ah, my God. Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's do it again. Sublime. Sublime. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? It says that you are not alone. It says that we are in this together. It's just such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. So, in the global news, something really crazy happened, as you know. I wrote an article about it yesterday. China has successfully built its EUV lithography machine. Lithography machine is the key component of semiconductor manufacturing. This is the ultra precision light machine that essentially forges wafers, right? Forges circuits into wafers. It is obviously a very core component of the supply chain of the semiconductors. Currently, the global semiconductor supply chain is very brittle, to say the least. I mean, there's Nvidia, the chips get made by TSMC. TSMC chips get made because of lithography machines made by ASML. ASML's lithography machines work because of high precision optical instruments, lenses, which are made by Carl Zeiss. That is the supply chain. 90% of all it goes in these very little pockets, and that leads to concentration risks. That also leads to leverage for the Western uh, hegemony, so to speak, in this vital technology. China aims to attack that hegemony now, and it says that it has been able to successfully make a prototype of the EUV lithography machine, which is to say that it's very close to actually breaking the West's chokehold in the world of AI chip manufacturing. This is extraordinary. This is no small deal. This is to be viewed as something extraordinarily consequential, because if China is successfully able to do what ASML took about 2 decades to achieve in, let's say, 3 years, it's gonna break everything, right? It's gonna break it, and then it's gonna be commoditized. It's gonna be commoditized like nothing else. People are saying this is China's Manhattan Project moment, which is not a lie, of course. Manhattan Project, for people who don't know, was the nuclear power play that US made, the nuclear bomb, right? Oppenheimer, the movie is about that. This is China's Manhattan Project moment, which is quite a big deal actually. And if this is successfully accomplished by China by 2028, as they're saying, it's gonna be huge, right? China wants independence from Nvidia's chips altogether. It wants independence from the entire supply chain of America as far as AI chips are considered. China is taking Atmanirbhar China very seriously, very seriously. Now, what happens in this domain is up in the air, but this is to be viewed as that pivotal moment that everything sort of starts looking shaky, right? Uh, Speaking of AI and the chip manufacturing play and people who are associated with it, Mr. Elon Musk recently came out with an interview and said Bill Gates must have lost about $10 billion when it came to his short position against Tesla. So, Mr. Bill Gates had uh, a couple of $1 billion in short against Tesla, right, back in 2020 21. This is a very interesting story. uh, Mr. Elon Musk was approached by Mr. Bill Gates for contributing to his charities for tackling climate change, right? Bill Gates, as you know, Mr. Bill Gates is huge in philanthropy, so he wanted Mr. Musk's contribution in it. Mr. Musk evaluated his proposals and then said that I got to know that you have $1 billion in short position against Tesla. Is that true? To which Mr. Bill Gates replied that yes, and that's not on me, that's on my stock wealth manager guys who manage these positions. To which Mr. Elon Musk said, if you really care about climate change, why would you try to make money from the loss of a company which is doing most to tackle climate change? Why would you do that? Right? If you were actually caring about climate change and so on and so forth, carbon emissions, why would you try to hurt the company which is the most prominent contributor to the cause? To which Bill Gates didn't have any reply. Then Mr. Musk said that I don't trust your philanthropic endeavors and I can't take them seriously. I'm not going to be a part of it. Bye bye. And that exchange he shared very openly with everyone on Twitter. Then he also shared a meme which showed a pregnant man, and he equated that with he juxtaposed that with Mr. Bill Gates' photo, like a pregnant man with a huge tummy, and he says how to lose a boner quickly, and so on and so forth. And now he's come out saying that Bill Gates must have lost many, $10 billion in his short position against Tesla. Now, this is directionally correct. If Mr. Bill Gates' positions were on Tesla short positions, he must have lost a lot of money, definitely, right? But there's a twist. It's not necessary that if Mr. Bill Gates said that he was short on Tesla, he would have actually been short on the stock. He could have bought a put, right? If he would have bought a put, he wouldn't have been down by $10 billion. $10 billion sounds like an unreasonably high amount to lose on one short position. So I believe Mr. Bill Gates' wealth managers would not have been absolute asshats to have placed an actual short on a company like Tesla, where they would lose the entire amount when it comes to the rise of the price of that particular stock. So what happens with the put is that you place a premium, right? You have a price of the stock, then you have a strike price, and then you pay a premium, right? And all you lose essentially is the premium. And that basically saves a lot of money when it comes to shorting the stock. The downside is not infinite. The downside gets capped uh, with the premium. The upside is when the stock crashes after the strike price, you get a lot of money, right? So that is the beauty of the put position, which Mr. Dr. Michael Burry talked about. So a lot of people in the finance media misconstrued his positions against Palantir and Nvidia as the big short, claiming that he had essentially shorted the Palantir and Nvidia stocks at face value. What that means is it's like a stock is $100. He bought the stock and then he's gonna sell the stock, right? Selling, that's proper shorting. He said, I didn't do that. I bought like a 10 million put on the short. So they got my order wrong by an order of magnitude when they said that I was $1 billion short against Palantir. My God, I'm glaring again. This is very uncomfortable. Anyway, so sorry about that. So that's what Dr. Michael Burry said, and that could have been where Mr. Bill Gates' short position went against Tesla as well. So that is a very interesting angle, folks. If you're shorting a stock, it doesn't mean that you're always like shorting a stock. You could buy a put as well, right? To contain the downside. Very important. Next, Mr. Bill Gates is an interesting character if you want to know about Mr. Bill Gates a lot, right? There is a fabulous book called uh, Idea Man by Mr. Paul Allen. Paul Allen was the co-founder of Microsoft. He's one of my heroes. I love him. I have uh, read a lot, learned a lot from him, and his book Idea Man essentially gave me a lot of insights into the founding of Microsoft and into the creation of the company that Microsoft is, and also on the personalities of people behind it. So, you want to know something very, very weird? When Bill Gates and Paul Allen were building Microsoft, it was a 40-40 kind of a relationship, right? A 50-50 kind of a relationship. But Mr. Paul Allen was doing a full time job, and Mr. Bill Gates had essentially quit his Harvard degree for the company, right? So Mr. Bill Gates asked him for a 60-40, and he agreed. And then he asked him for another share, and he agreed because he was a nice guy, right? Paul Allen said that you are taking more risk, it's okay. But then Mr. Paul Allen was instrumental in bringing the MS-DOS deal, right, with IBM. MS-DOS was not invented by Microsoft. It was actually bought by somebody called Tim Anderson, who was running a company in Seattle, and he had made something called QDOS, which was Quick and Dirty Operating System. They bought QDOS from Tim Anderson, and then worked on it and created MS-DOS. And Mr. Paul Allen was instrumental in that deal. In fact, if you know about the history of Microsoft, that particular deal is what made Microsoft. And Mr. Paul Allen led that deal. And when Mr. Paul Allen came to Mr. Bill Gates and said that, hey, you want to renegotiate because you this particular deal is gonna set everything for the company, and I think I deserve more stake. Bill Gates said no, never talk about it again, right? And then what happened was Mr. Paul Allen got cancer. Okay, he got a Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a form of brain cancer, and then Mr. Bill Gates was plotting to take Mr. Paul Allen's shares out of Microsoft. He wanted him out of Microsoft. And he was plotting with Steve Ballmer, Mr. Steve Ballmer at the time, how do we get Paul Allen out of the company? Because he's not contributing anymore, because he had cancer. To that, Paul Allen walked into that meeting and says, this shows your true character. And then, in a bid to essentially, that was a big moment. Bill Gates was very, very embarrassed, humiliated, right? Because he tried to plot against his partner who essentially led the company to success, right? Mr. Paul Allen was instrumental in creating everything valuable that Microsoft did, right? In the very little time, not very little, but in the time that he worked there. Uh, then Mr. Bill Gates essentially sent Steve Ballmer to say that we're not going to do that. So Steve Ballmer, uh, you know, went to Mr. Paul Allen and said we're not going to do it. Then Mr. Bill Gates actually tried to buy him out. So he went to Paul Allen and he said that I'm gonna buy your shares out. And he said something like a $7 per play, per share, $7 or $4, something of that sort. Mr. Paul Allen said I'm not gonna do anything less than $12 per share. And Mr. Bill Gates was such a dumb head, right? He refused because he didn't. He just thought that Mr. Paul Allen was asking too much. He was being greedy, and he was not gonna relent to his greed, which was so stupid because he was building that company. So if he wasn't bullish on his company, what was he bullish on? What was he thinking? Anyway, that deal turned out very well for Mr. Paul Allen because Bill Gates didn't take it, and then Mr. Paul Allen's shareholding became worth $20 billion, and that's how Mr. Paul Allen, sustained his legacy in the building of Microsoft. Otherwise, he would have sold out early if he were allowed to do so. So that was one of and then the whole Bill Gates case happened where they killed Netscape for being with anti-competitive practices, right? They bundled Internet Explorer with Windows and they killed Netscape. And then that sort of became a very big deal, right? And soon after, Bill Gates retired in 2000 as a chief and started building the philanthropic endeavors because he was so chastised from the global community for being a total asshole, right? Now, what happens is these things point out a lot of character and sort of intellectual blind spots in Mr. Bill Gates' personality, but they get even better, right? So if you read Mr. Musk's play, he says that Bill Gates was very underwhelming intellectually. So I don't find him very intelligent. He was shot against Tesla and even was also shot against Cybertruck. And he said it's not gonna work. And I was like, what was the battery output to weight ratio that you used to come to that conclusion? What was essentially your assumption? Because Cybertruck was live, it was working in front of him, and he said it's not gonna work. And I asked him what was the battery output to weight ratio, and he had no idea. In other words, Mr. Musk said that he was a total idiot, right? Who didn't know what he's talking about. So that is a brief on Mr. Bill Gates. He recently came out with a book called Source Code, which I'm reading. Uh, I grew up looking up to these people, so I read everything about them. Mr. Bill Gates also wrote a book called Business at the Speed of Thought, which was an okay book, not really good, not really bad, but it was fine. He also wrote a book called The Road Ahead, which was actually a pretty bad book. You know what happened with The Road Ahead? He wrote The Road Ahead and he had very, very antithetical views on the internet, right? And that book came out, and then internet essentially just went through an inflection point, and then they had to like reprint that book. They had to change the book in order to incorporate the changes that had happened right in front of them. So that is Mr. Bill Gates, a bunch of it about bunch about him. I hope you enjoyed. What do you make of all this? Mr. Tushar Tiwari says, "Good morning." Well, good morning to you, Mr. Tiwari. Same way, Elon Musk, there's a comment on LinkedIn saying, same way Elon Musk underestimated BYD. Well, Mr. Musk didn't underestimate BYD, to be honest. BYD is being undervalued by the market itself. You know, if you look at BYD, it's closing in on, we've talked about this a lot. It's closing in on the revenues of Tesla. In fact, it's growing, right? Tesla has not been able to grow for 2 years revenue wise. But BYD is growing. BYD is getting its share in Europe. BYD is ruling in China. BYD has a price concern, right? Margins are thin because the Chinese automotive market is very, very crowded. However, BYD is still valued at about $150 billion when Tesla is valued at about $1.7 trillion because Tesla is all about the future. Tesla is talking humanoid robots coming out in 2026, and that they believe is going to change everything. Tesla is also going to come out with robo taxis, which are incredible, right? Robo taxis are going to be a paradigm shift when it comes to mobility as a concept, right? Your car being a cab to other people when it's free, it's just unbelievable, right? So that is why you know Tesla is essentially so overvalued. That said, I believe BYD is terribly undervalued. I believe BYD is going to catch up to Tesla in everything Tesla does. Tesla is going to take a lot of time and money to perfect the technology, and then BYD is just going to copy it and do it at scale, right? And I sincerely believe that BYD is going to be a very, very big pick in times to come. If that is your inference, I agree with that, right? Speaking of inferences, folks, you know what happened with OpenAI? OpenAI got $100 billion from, I mean, it might just get Abu Dhabi, the Gulf, the sovereign money. This basically saves the Oracle CDS, right? Oracle was under debt, and it was very bad for Oracle and OpenAI. But this basically allays a lot of beer concerns around AI for now. For now, so $100 billion coming to OpenAI allays concerns. That is gonna be huge, right? That is big. Let's move on. How did you like the global thing? I think my voice and my way of speaking has improved by leaps and bounds, right? Thanks to Thinker's Frequency. Now I don't, that too much, right? I mean, I'm way more fluent, which is great news. Which is what I wanted to do, by the way, which was one of my prime reasons for starting Thinker's Frequency, because I had always been a good debater and all, and then I saw my speech getting flustered like that. Good morning, Nishant. Hope you're feeling better now, says Mr. Abhishek Sharma. Good morning, Mr. Sharma. Yes, yes, I am. Yesterday was very difficult. So I got, static dust. I thought I'm gonna get a fever and so on and so forth. Again, I didn't want that. So I ended up taking a Montec LC, levocitrazine montelukast. It's basically an anti-allergen, right? To contain the allergy. Now what happens is a Montec LC essentially makes you sleep, right? It makes you very, very dizzy. So I thought I'd be able to sleep, but then I couldn't sleep till 2 a.m., right? And then I had to take like a melatonin gum to sleep. After that, I slept, but by the morning, I was like spinning, right? I was literally spinning because of the drug and less sleep and whatever was happening. So that was a very weird day. But, thankfully, I'm back. And then I had a proper day at work, at office. It's just that my morning was ruined, unfortunately, which is strange, right? Which is strange. Anyway, moving on, folks. Very, very interesting stuff happening in the world of EVs as well. Since we talked about Mr. Musk, we talked about how Ford has written off $19.5 billion from its books, right, in the EV investment space. Ford has also cancelled $6.5 billion worth of battery deal with LG. $6.5 billion. Ford had signed a deal. We talked about this if you remember. They've scrapped it. They're not going ahead with it. $6.5 billion is a quarter of LG's revenue, so it's gonna hurt them, right? But it is what it is. Ford has decided that this is where the American consumers are. They do not want expensive EVs. Cheap EVs, we are doing very well. Expensive EVs, we don't need that. So that's what they're looking at, folks. Moving on. A lot of action happening in the world of geopolitics, but I'm bored of it, to be honest, right? Russia, Ukraine, uh, Israel, Palestine, Thailand, Cambodia, US, Venezuela, China, Japan. But there's something new. Bangladesh is at fire. Bangladesh is basically burning. It's just so sad. Some people have been killed, and they are basically persecuting Hindus, man. They're just killing Hindus all of a sudden, and good street protests are erupting against the Muhammad Yunus government, and it's just hell out there. It's just unbelievable what's happening. Uh, they lynched a guy, unfortunately. Rest in peace. I'm so sorry to spoil your morning with this. I didn't. I shouldn't have said that, but whatever is happening in Bangladesh is just terrible. So thoughts and prayers for everyone who who's suffering there, right? So no more geopolitics. Screw that. What's happening? No protests are organic. No protests are organic. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Are you watching some movies series lately? Says Mr. Guitar Beginners. So to address that, Mr. Abhishek Sharma, no protests are organic is absolutely right, absolutely right. And what's happening in Bangladesh is just you know it's a mix of a lot of things. So as we discussed, Muhammad Yunus government was essentially placed by the US deep state, right? He was a stooge of the US, right? And Madam Sheikh Hasina's government was essentially ousted because she was not as pro US as US wanted her to be. And that's what happened earlier, right? Now the communal strife has begun because a lot of actions have happened while that government was ousted, Madam Sheikh Hasina sentenced to death, and so on and so forth. Now, what we are looking at are the second order effects of the conflict that has already begun. So this is what's happening, and you're absolutely right. No protests are organic, and there could be many people, with their vested interests stoking the fire. But now what we are seeing is just the uncontainable second order contagion effects, the domino effects of something that has already happened. So this is very, very weird. This began right when they were trying to attack the Indian embassy there. It's just whatever is happening in Bangladesh is absolutely tragic. And I just pray for people there, man. I just pray. Uh, so sometimes, no protests are organic. But once you've had those things, it's not like nothing is going to happen after that, right? Once you've screwed things up, things just essentially keep getting screwed. Uh, that's exactly what happened in the Gulf as well. That's what happened in ISIS as well. That's what happened with the Libya conflict as well. So, since we are talking about it, I have great respect, by the way, for Mr. Julian Assange. Great, great respect, okay? So, he, in one of his very good interviews, said that we were very against the Libya invasion by US. You know why? Because they tried to attack Libya for whatever it's trying to do, and Libya was the cork of Africa. So he said Libya was that link which essentially stopped African immigration to Europe. If you heard the cork of Africa, all the uncontained Islamic or non-Islamic African invasion is gonna hurt Europe in ways you can't imagine, right? And immigration is gonna attack Europe, right? So don't hurt the cork of Africa, right? That's what Mr. Assange said. And what happened after that was that US came out, Libya, they screwed Gaddafi government, right? They killed Gaddafi. Then what happened is right now, slave trade is happening in Libya, but Europe has, exactly as predicted by Mr. Julian Assange, gotten ruined because of the immigration. uh, from the African route. So he was absolutely right. Then those were the second order effects, right? And exactly that's what happened with Iraq. So you hurt Iraq, and Iraq was a counterweight to Iran, right? So once Iraq was out, Iran grew as a local power, and that sort of became a very very big issue, right? Similar was the case with Syria and so on and so forth. The whole ISIS thing, everything has second order effects, and whatever was happening in Bangladesh is the result of something that they did a couple of years ago. So it's just very very weird whatever's happening, right? So that was, we didn't want to discuss geopolitics, but we ended up discussing it anyway. Are you watching some movies slash series lately? Unfortunately, I am not being able to watch movies a lot, and series. I don't watch series. I don't watch series. I avoid series at all costs. I think series are a corporate plot for wasting people's time and giving writers annuity jobs like sarkari naukri. Right? That's what I think of series. Series are just corporate projects, right? To keep a thing rolling. No good writer would ever work on a series beyond the first season or so on and so forth, because it's boring, right? Just imagine you're a good writer, you came out with this idea, and then the executive says, hey, do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. It takes 3 or 4 years to make something, and they just keep doing it because the studio wants, right? And they just keep extending series till the cow is dry, right? Milk dry, and they just keep engaging people with the familiar hooks and so on and so forth. So I just avoid series at all costs, at all costs, unless they are based out of real life stories and so on and so forth, right? Because that they can't cook. So if you look at limited series like People versus O.J. Simpson, or very good series was Billion Dollar Code, and a lot of good series like there are a lot of Dropout, Super Pumped, We Crashed, uh, right? A lot of good cinema based on, because I know that this stuff is gonna end. What I don't know is when is, let's say, any fictional account of work going to end. They're gonna and it's not like I haven't experienced any of that. I have, but I've gotten trapped and I don't want to get trapped. So I'm not watching series, and I'm not being able to watch movies as well. So the last movie I watched in theaters was Dhurandhar. I was extraordinary. I was extraordinary. But my movie watching streak has sort of, usually in a year I end up watching about uh, 80 to 100 movies, right? Have a record of the number of movies I've watched every year. 80 to 100 movies is the usual number of movies I end up watching. And let me check the number of movies I've watched this particular year. So I have watched in total 58 movies this year. So 58 movies is a joke, as in my in my world. I mean, I no 58 movies is nothing. So that's 58 is huge. No, 58 is not huge. 58 is a joke, right? I mean, if you're really a movie buff, you got to watch like a movie in every 3 days, right? That's what makes you a movie buff, right? People might think, oh, it's wasting time. It's not wasting time. So if you look at a movie, it's 2 hours, right? But if you look at a series, it's about 30 hours, 40 hours, right? So if you're watching a series, you're essentially watching 20 movies at least, right? So if you watch like 10 series, right, you've essentially watched 200 movies. So that's the difference, and that sort of saves time. And with a movie you learn so much, because it's just one world, one particular piece of information, and you get to experience a different universe every time. So movies are great. 58 is not huge. That's just me. Moving on. Speaking of movies, folks, Paramount's deal uh, has been rejected by Warner Brothers. It's not like it's not going to go to the shareholders. They're still going to get to decide. But Warner Brothers board is not very happy with Paramount's deal. You know why? Because Paramount's deal is has a risk of not working out due to Oracle's financial condition. So that's what's happening. Paramount uh, wanted to bid for Warner Brothers just as Netflix wanted to bid for Warner Brothers. Netflix came out with its deal, and Netflix sealed the deal, right, for $82 billion. Paramount wanted to buy all the assets and do a much better deal, and that would have been great. But Warner Brothers says it's unlikely that these people will be able to pay, and so we'll go with Netflix, right? Netflix and Warner Brothers joining will be very catastrophic for the industry, right? Because theatrical windows will collapse and so on and so forth. Not good news. Paramount streaming is much smaller. Netflix, Warner Brothers deal will also get hurt by the antitrust play because there'll be competition, antitrust violation happening because of such big merger. Paramount might not happen, but this particular information is before the $100 billion that OpenAI got from Abu Dhabi. So now that OpenAI has gotten the Abu Dhabi $100 billion, which essentially helps the Oracle CDS by a lot, you're gonna see, you might see that Warner Brothers warm up to Paramount's deal because Paramount is owned by Mr. David Ellison, who's the son of Mr. Larry Ellison, right? Who's the founder and owner of uh, Oracle. So let's see Oracle share. What's Oracle share doing right now? It's up. It's up now. It was down. It's down 5 days by 8.32%, 1 month 18.5%, 6 months 14%, but it's beginning to look up. Let's see what happens. Let's see, right? By the way, Oracle's $10 billion Michigan data center is also in trouble because Blue Owl, the funding play, they've walked out of the deal. So that is complicated. So this is particular. Do you plan on starting a huge business soon? I'm already running an AI company, which is funded by the best entrepreneurs of the country. So moving on, folks. Tesla stock up 25%. Very, very hot. Everything is very hot. Let's move on, folks. We've talked about how Japan's Mizuho is looking at acquiring uh, uh, Aventus Capital, the private equity play, the investment banking play, right? That deal is on. It's happening. Tatas have invested 1,500 crores into the manufacturing setup for iPhones, right? They are putting in money. We've talked about this. Let's move on. India's VIX hits new low. VIX is the volatility index. Volatility index is basically, a measure of puts and calls in the future. So that is down. That means less volatility for Indian stocks in the future. No trading clues and few cues, right? VIX hits new low. Everything uh, is in a pretty static kind of a situation. Need for hedge against downright risk and decline. Traders not excessively buying nifty puts. So VIX is down. We've talked about VIX a lot, so we won't go too much into it. By the way, India and Oman signed an FTA. Oman is going to be taking 99% of Indian exports duty free, which is going to help a lot of companies in India, right? As we say, all business outcomes are the result of a political will. That's going to work out for people who were dependent on the Gulf trade now that Oman has essentially taken over this particular deal, right? Speaking of exports, India's pharma's exports have crossed $30 billion. India's pharma's exports were not hurt by Trump tariffs, the US tariffs. Pharma and electronics were the two areas where tariffs didn't touch the country, and they are really looking up. Moving on, folks. Now that the demergers are happening, Vedanta is really in green, right? The demergers have been, NCLT has approved the demergers. Those companies will get listed separately and so on and so forth. So Vedanta is looking at investing $20 billion in India in next 4 to 5 years. Uh, Company chairman Mr. Anil Agrawal says the demerged business has potential to be gigantic, or whatever the pronunciation. I guess it's gigantic. Yeah. So that's what's looking at happening. $20 billion. Vedanta has successfully averted its debt crisis. Viceroy, the short seller, tried to screw Vedanta, but it couldn't, and now they are in the clear, which is great news. Which is great news. Moving on, folks. Mexico India terms of reference trade pact likely next month. Mexico is making, what is Mexico making? Tariffs on Indian auto exports and so on and so forth. Mexico and India have a trading relationship which is not insignificant, which is not large, but not insignificant either. And Mexico's tariffs are going to be hurting India in a very bad way. So India is trying to figure that out. 50% tariffs kicking in from January 1, right? That's $2 billion of India's exports to Mexico, especially automobiles, two wheelers, auto parts, and so on and so forth. So, India's total outbound shipments to Mexico total about $5.75 billion, right? Metals, auto parts, motorcycles, pharmaceuticals being key, uh, and gold amounted to $2 billion. So imports were $2.9 billion. Imports 2.9, outbound some 5.75. So India has a trade surplus relationship with Mexico. Mexico wants to probably renegotiate that. That's why the tariffs. Let's see what happens in this particular situation, right? Let's move on. Uh, Silver went up, right? Crossed the 2 lakh mark, folks. We talked about silver just yesterday. I mean, day before yesterday in the last session of Thinkers Frequency. Since then, silver has grown. Gold, let me check the gold price as well. GLD price. Oh, gold didn't grow. Gold didn't grow that much. It's still up 7% month on month. But right now it's pretty static. Silver really went up, right? With that, we have covered everything that was spoken yesterday. Let's move to today, folks. I'll just pour myself a drink. How are you feeling? Did you enjoy the sip? Are you taking the sips? Very necessary. The sips make everything worth it. Let me also take a sip, right? Let me pour a hot drink for myself. One of the last few episodes of Thinkers Frequency, folks. How do you feel? We are at 195. We have 6 more to go. Right? It was fun. It was a lot of fun. It is still a lot of fun. Yeah. So there's another sip. Oh my God, beautiful. Indigo has sort of resumed operations. Its operations have been normalized, says the chief. But Indigo is now getting heard by CCI. It's already heard by the DGCA play. I wish we had a community meetup, says Mr. Sumanth Kumar. We should absolutely do a community meetup. When is the last episode planned? Asks Mr. Tushar Tiwari. So today's Friday, right? We'll take a weekend break. We'll go to Monday. And then we'll have the final episode on Saturday, the next week. So 5 episodes Monday to Friday. And the final episode will be on Saturday. And we should definitely have a community meetup. We should definitely plan something. So what we could do is have a Thinkers Frequency group something, right? Which is a subgroup of my WhatsApp 3-4 thousand people. When that happens, we could try and organize meetups and we could continue it in a different way, right? So we could definitely. Why last few? Sorry, don't have context as I had missed the last few episodes, asks Mr. Abhishek Sharma. Oh, you don't know? We are winding up Thinkers Frequency, Mr. Sharma. We're going to end the series on 201 episodes because, it didn't work out as planned. So we did 200 episodes. We had some ambition, some hopes for it, but those didn't work out. In the last few days, right after the first month got over, we again wanted to raise money for the intern, right, 7,500 rupees, but we couldn't do that. Only Mr. Sumanth Kumar came up and supported, and was the patron. We couldn't raise money, and that was a clear tell from the market, and that made me reflect that if after 6 months of doing something 7 days a week, I can't even afford an intern to keep the ball rolling, it's bad. It's bad, right? So, for that reason, and it also had a lot of effects on my internet visibility, right? Because the nature of it, right, the daily thing, it sort of irked people or whatever. So we are closing it down on 201 episodes, which is sad, but it's glad that this happened. This was a big deal that we could do. Anyway, let's move on, folks. uh, Airtel is ringing in the rights issue, shuffles senior leadership. Airtel had a rights issue in 2021, some 5,000 crores. Now it's taking 15,000 crores more, right, as a part of the rights. This is going to be for debt pairing and so on and so forth. These rights are being issued at the first and final call at 400 rupees per share price, right? A total of 21,000 crore rights issue, right? This is going to be cutting debt and fortifying its balance sheet. 2021 5,200 crores, now 15,000 crore. Airtel is on a roll. Airtel is on a roll. Everybody said Airtel. Uh, okay, it was super fun. Hope we continue discussion in some way, like groups, etc. Says Mr. Abhishek Sharma. It was super fun indeed, and it's gonna be super fun for the next 6 days, right? I mean, Monday and so on and so forth, and those are gonna be. It's so beautiful. You know what I miss about this thing, Thinker's Frequency, is the simultaneous sip, which I believe is such a good idea, such a beautiful idea. The whole simultaneous sip. Uh, you wake up, you are having heavy discussions, and then you're like sipping something, and it's like actually happening with 8 people, 10 people. That's how we were almost, right? We could never go beyond 20, unfortunately. But just imagine 12 people sipping something together and ready to discuss some deep stuff, right? This is so amazing. This is absolutely amazing. And you got to thank Mr. Scott Adams. Scott Adams, sir, is not doing well, by the way. uh, he is not doing well at all. He's very unwell. He's on the hospital bed. The treatments are not working, so I'm not sure how it's gonna pan out. I'm just praying for him. I'm hoping for a miracle, but it's very bad. Uh, but he came out with such a beautiful idea, and I wish I could continue it in some form, but it's difficult, right? So I don't know. I mean, I would have been happy if it would have grown some way or the other, right? If there was some growth rate attached to it, I would have sustained it. I'm like a hard worker, right? Even if it's a lot of hard work, I would have been very happy to continue the tradition just for the sake of it, but then couldn't do it. Moving on, folks. Very good news coming in from India. Consumer companies Auto Incorporates push capex pedal. Focus on ramping up manufacturing spends by GST cut. So, as we discussed, as viewers of Thinkers Frequency know, it's all about capex, it's all about domestic consumption, and both of them are related. So, the spur in domestic consumption has finally led to private capex spur, which is great news, right? Asia Pac to overtake North America as world's largest consumer market, and FMCG growth up, improving consumer sentiment, and so on and so forth. Godrej, Reliance, uh, DFM Foods, Haldiram's set to invest at least 5,000 crores in the play, which is very nice. 5,000 crores is a lot of money. It's not a lot of money, but it's gonna get better. You know what? After the domestic consumption and private capex spend, can you guess where the next money needs to go to? So we talked about the basics of economy, of the Indian economy, and we said that it's imperative for India to survive, not just thrive, not thrive, but survive, uh, right? Uh, by increased capex and increased domestic consumption. For domestic consumption, the government came out with the GST rollout, right? The personal tax and everything, right? And that has started leading us to a private capex game, right? What is the next step? Where does the money needs to go next? Can you guess, folks? I'll take a sip till then. There's some comments by Mr. Ankur Pandit. Uh, Welcome to the world of sleep issues. I have a penthouse here. What is happening in Bangladesh has been happening in Pakistan unnoticed for many years. Forced conversion, rampant killings. Dhurandhar box office are pretty solid. Should cross 800 crore mark easily. I feel Ranveer's fee is justified for what he brought to the table. This is in response to what I wrote, right? Mr. Ankur Pandit, this is only in hindsight. Only in hindsight, right? I mean, I would beg to disagree. I love Dhurandhar. I've watched it twice, right? And it's amazing. And I love the work the lead actor did. No qualms against everything. As a business, strictly, fundamentally, as a business, it doesn't make sense for 30% of entire budget of a product to go towards one person. That doesn't make sense in any industry, not just movies, any industry. And that I believe is gonna be hurtful, right? So sorry I took some time to respond to your comment. It was 16 minutes ago. So anyway, nobody to answer that particular question, folks. The next money should go to research and development. India, while is attracting some capex, it's starting to attract some capex. India's R&D spend is abysmal when compared to any major economy or developed economy or developing economy like China or something. So that is basically very bad, right? So if after private capex and let's say food and so on and so consumer goods, if we can start investing in R&D, right, that's gonna be great. That's gonna be beautiful. Let's see if that happens. So in the last 6 months, whatever we're thinking about when it comes to trends as far as the macro of the country is considered have proved to be right. Let's see if the next 6 months we see R&D spend taking up. Speaking of investments, Mitsubishi UFG Financial Group is set to announce a strategic $4.5 billion in Shriram, right? A non-banking financial company, NBFC Shriram Finance for 20% stake. Mitsubishi is the largest player in Japan, one of the largest, right? And it's gonna be an acquisition. So this is a gradual stake climb, right? 20% in the beginning and then more. This is gonna be very, very big, very big. Talks got fast tracked. Let's move on, folks. A lot of action happening in the world of politics, which we're not gonna discuss. Best avoid politics at all costs, right? Best avoid politics. We've talked about the Shanti bill. We've talked about G Ramji, the Manrega thing. Oh my god. So here's what Maruti thinks about the EV revolution. As said, Maruti doesn't is not very hot on EVs, right? Maruti doesn't care about EVs too much, right? It says that it's only going to enter EVs when there is full solution. It says that there's 4% of vehicles of market share of EVs and four wheelers, despite 18 models. That is not good at all. We don't want to. So Maruti wants to be in India at least the last mover. The last mover advantage. That's what Maruti is looking for when it comes to Indian EV ground. India is at 4.4%. It was in the range of 2.2% about 3-4 years ago. The growth is great, but it's now stagnating. And Maruti is seeing that the EV growth is stagnating. And as that stagnates, right, it probably doesn't want to invest too much into it. So it's more towards hybrids and so on and so forth. Do you think the strategy is right? Right? EVs are stagnating globally. Europe, America, China, everywhere. EVs are not growing as everybody said, right? They would. So, but their stagnation came at like 40%, 30% of market. Chinese market is about 50%, right? Indian stagnation started coming in 5%, right? So that is to be seen. But for now, Maruti says will enter EVs only with a full solution. Moving on, folks. We've talked about Oman, 2 billion boost to exports. 99% of Indian textiles, farm, leather goods, tariffs to come. Omanese, dates, marbles, petrochemical items. Strategic move from Maruti, but they're going to launch e-Vitara in 2026. It's one model. Mr. Ankur Pandit says, Dhurandhar box office collections are... no, he wrote a comment. Why is that comment not visible? Oh, it's not visible here. Agree to what you said. Mr. Amir Khan has shifted to taking a cut at box office return talking rather than taking a fixed lead actor. I also feel it's a more prudent step business model wise. So you know what happens is, Mr. Pandit, a lot of whenever there's a good news, right? There a good news comes, which is often well founded that there's a good news and it needs to be there and everything is great. But that good news starts surrounding itself with a lot of irrational exuberance, right? Just because Dhurandhar worked doesn't justify, uh, a 30% allocation of the entire production budget to a one lead actor. That's just insane, right? That's insane. So you're absolutely right. What Mr. Amir Khan has done is the way to go forward because Bollywood indeed has a cost problem. So when I wrote that article, right, people were like, okay, let's see, and then they started coming to me like, look, this movie is making 700 crores. You said it's gonna make 600 crores. I didn't say it's gonna make 600. I said it's an optimistic scenario, and I wish them luck. I would want this movie to make 2,000 crores, right? It's not about me. I said the cost structure is fundamentally flawed, right, and that should be solved for. And now that the movie has clicked, I'm getting that a lot, which doesn't make sense in my opinion. But moving on, folks. Small high income markets, new age fibers key to textile exports, uh, lift outbound shipments to $100 billion in 5 years. That's what uh, the textile industry minister, Mr. Giriraj Singh, is hoping for. India is a 350 by a billion dollar textile industry from $180 billion now. So India has done a lot to do that, right? The polyester cloth and the fabric, the plastics, and so on and so forth. India is investing a lot into that play, and that's why it's not really going for the core components. So it has allowed cotton imports. It has allowed, right, some high uh, precision threads, the plastic imports, threads, and so on and so forth, so that the textile group can go. So when India was looking at allowing cotton imports, I thought that's it's gonna be a bad idea. Nobody would approve it because why would you actively try to hurt cotton farmers of India? But India went into that play. Firstly, it allowed cotton imports from US because that was necessary to placate US in some way. And then obviously those exports made it cheaper for the textile producers, right? The garment manufacturers and so on and so forth. And when that happened, so it sacrificed the raw material manufacturers or producers like farmers or so on and so forth for the larger industry that is the textile play. Does that make sense? I am not sure, but it is what it is, right? Uh, Mr. Ankur Pandit has a very nice comment. Maruti is doing which the Japanese always do. They wait to see how the market trends while doing consumer and product research in the background. EV penetration will be capped until the government policies become more favorable, like they were in China. I, for one, agree that Toyota, for a long time, hybrids that can run on fuel charge will be the best solution for vast majority. I love hybrids. Absolutely love hybrids. I am thoroughly against EVs. Every win of EV is victory China and loss everybody else. So we got to until everything is localized. It doesn't make sense to go heavy on EVs, right? That fad is gonna be over very soon. Moving on, folks. Let's move on. I hope you're enjoying today's session. I'm enjoying today's session. You know, when I enjoy sessions, is when there are a lot of comments from people, there's a lot of active engagement. That sort of sets everything up, right? Speaking of active engagement, folks, there is this guy called Mr. Jacob N. Shapiro, and he's basically studied, right? So I'll tell you what he studies. He studies terrorist groups, a professor of international affairs, and what he studied is something very interesting. I'll tell you what. The economics of an organizational behavior of terrorists. So he says terrorist groups must be covert and can't use organizational mechanisms. Companies can, hence, most of them fail. So that's his insight. Because terrorists are covert operations, right? They run covert operations, and their organizational mechanisms cannot be as robust as normal companies running day to day. That's why most of them fail. That's the insight. How do you like his insight, folks? Is your life different? Has your life changed after reading his insight? Mine definitely has. I mean, I wouldn't have known the challenges of running a terrorist operation, a terrorist organization. I wouldn't have known that running a covert thing is gonna be hard, right? And I'm glad that this professor of international affairs at Princeton, right? My God, talk of bullshit jobs, man. This is the most, like, a perfect example of a bullshit job, right? Look at this guy. He says terrorist group tax businesses, run scams, kidnap exports, and sell drugs, but the resources don't follow a consistent pattern. थोड़ा सा अगर वो consistent हो जाते अपने कामों में तो वो successful हो जाते. I won't be surprised if this guy becomes a consultant to those guys, just for research purposes, right? Very interestingly, Trump Media, the company that runs Truth Social, they have essentially, uh, you know, tied up with nuclear fusion, the Google backed N fusion, right? Merging in a $6 billion deal. So US is going heavy with nuclear, right? And Trump Media, the company, was not in good shape, right? The stock had fallen 69% ever since it IPO'd. The Truth Social isn't really a very active social networking platform except for being Mr. Trump's megaphone, right? So what he's done, those guys, they've merged it with nuclear fusion. And nuclear fusion, the listed company, when merging with Trump, is going to be effective proxy of the nuclear revolution that is supposed to happen in US. So if you buy this particular stock, it'll go up, right? How smart is Donald Trump? My God, my God, my God. Anyway, moving on, folks. This is very weird, but US is also selling $10 billion worth of arms to Taiwan. Very well. Data center boom to raise gensets demand in India. India moving beyond data storage to AI workloads. Engine and generator manufacturer, genset manufacturer Cummins Group is betting big on data centers. So this is one of another one of second order effects. The genset operators, Cummins is gonna be gaining for the AI data center boom that is happening. $40 billion already in India, invested in India because of the AI genset play, right? Uh, uh, and genset guys are another one of those players. So we found out HVAC guys, the air conditioner players. Mr. Sumanth Kumar added the air quality guys like Teneco, right? Because the genset plays. Now, the data center would need a better quality air so that it doesn't lead to corrosion and so on and so forth. And now the genset guys, Spar Energy, air quality, HVAC, heating, ventilation, right? And now backing up. Real estate, of course, was the first beneficiary of the data center boom, but then everything else. Mr. Ankud Pandit says there's a Punjabi word for the quality of that insight. The professor, it's called Fuddu. Oh man. Moving on. You know what? With the AI data center play and AI play, as the stocks went up, we talked about how the Chinese stock went up. The next play, a world-beating 55,000% surge in India AI stock bubble fears. So there's this company called RRP Semiconductor, right? It became a semiconductor. It became a social media obsession, and since uh, 20 months, the stock has risen by 55,000%, right? Despite the company giving, right, its market value has peaked $1 billion, despite the company saying that we just have two employees, full-time employees, annual report, right? Very, very small link with the semiconductor industry. So we are not supposed to be this big, but the stock has surged 55,000%. This is what happens when a wave exists, right? When a wave exists, it's just unbelievable, right? Absolutely unbelievable. 55,000%. So RRP Semiconductors, let's look at it. Semiconductor share price. It's 11,000 bucks now, and it was in 2024 15 rupees. Oh, 15 rupees to 11,000 bucks. Where was I? Where where was I? Why didn't I invest in it? What were we doing? Right? Two full-time employees, guys. Two. Whew. Oh my god. Oh my god. So anything that gets related to AI, right, gets a huge stock play. We discussed the uh, Chinese company, and now India has its own play. Moving on, folks. Mr. Rahul Pandit has a comment. Ankur Pandit. You should check out Professor Roy Casagranda's videos on YouTube. Amazing, honest take on the history of our times. Thank you for the recommendation. I'll check that out. Moving on. HCL is acquiring Hewlett Packard Enterprise Telco Solutions business for $160 million in cash, right? Asset carve out, 15 million in incentives. Transaction to complete in 6 months. So India's third largest player, HCL, looking at buying it, right? 1,500 engineering and telecom specialists will join HCL Tech global team. This is another one of IT services pivots, or let's say evolution, to tackle the AI play. Move towards telco, right? Moving on, folks. Center weighs new law to regulate medical research. Rules for institutions and researchers, fixing ethical gaps. There are a lot of ethical gaps when it comes to research, medical research especially. Half of all the reviewers, all the peer reviewers are paid for, right, by the pharma companies. Half of all the research papers that go on are paid for. The reviewers are paid for. Essentially, there's a huge conflict of interest. Half of the research papers that get published are not replicable, right? It doesn't work out. So whoever tries to quote you science and goes on with the research papers as the backing of it, they are in for a rude awakening when they find out what is the nature of the research that is being pushed. So pharma companies submit researches, right, and they pay for peer reviewers to essentially authenticate that research. And everything is basically a circle jerk, positioning itself as real science, right? So that is what is happening, and Indian law is looking at new regulations to fight that problem. Nothing is going to happen, folks. Newsflash. By the way, uh, there is a huge case. We discussed it. Mr. Samir Modi. Samir Modi is the Modi Empire heir, right? If you want to know about the Modi Empire, there's a very good book called Gujar Mal Modi, written by Sonu Bhasin ma'am. I've done a podcast with her. You can watch my interview with her. She's India's best business historian. So she's written a biography of the Modi Empire, right? Starting from Gujar Mal Modi. Gujar Mal Modi, then Modi Empire became Godfrey Phillips. Godfrey Phillips is GPI, the cigarette company. Then Lalit Modi is also a Modi heir, and he runs the IPL thing. right? Samir Modi is one of the people. He's also in a legal battle with Beena Modi, his mother, for stakes and all. But he had been accused of rape by executive assistant, right? And she said that he had been raping her for years, like 2019, and last year he filed. So 5 years of continuous rape for I don't know, some benefits when it comes to the professional career. That was the angle, right? That was huge. That was incredible, right? Now, court has ordered FIR against the complainant for an extortion angle. So Mr. Samir Modi is out on bail, and now there's an extortion case. It's very very ugly. I don't know why the richest of the people are not careful when dealing with females like that, right? I mean, why would you engage in a sexual relationship with your junior, right, in the pretext of a work setting? Like, you are so rich, are you deprived of any in any way, right? Why would you make such a lapse of judgment that you have to deal with rape cases of all things? Now this is obviously going to hurt his case against Madam Beena Modi. Let's see what happens there. Very weird situation. But the group, Modi group, is very, it's an interesting story. You've got to read the book of Gujar Mal Modi. He also built a city called Moradabad, Modi Nagar, right? If you want to be immortal, you make a city. Moving on. Reliance has bought Udayams. That's okay. Reliance Consumer Products company on fire. ECB has held the rates. By the way, did you know yesterday, day before yesterday, when we had the last Thinkers Frequency session, we talked about how AMCs were getting hurt because of the SEBI's order on fixing the TER, the total exchange expense ratio, right? It got changed, and it got changed in their favor. So what they were expecting didn't happen, like the bad things. In fact, the BER thing, the 5 BPS charge was removed and so on and so forth, and AMC stocks went up. And I was supposed to tell you yesterday, that this particular thing is gonna happen and AMC stocks will be in green, but I couldn't be there, right? But that happened. So yesterday, after that particular news came out, the stocks went up 6%, 7%, and so on and so forth. Speaking of stocks that going up, Misho has topped 1 lakh crore in market cap. 1 lakh crore. That's a big number. HDFC Bank of Baroda raising $1.5 billion from overseas loan market. A lot of things happening there. No news per se, but it's just usual life. Haldiram's has raised more money. Nobody knows how much, but L. Catterton has taken a minority stake. Haldiram's had raised $1 billion at a $10 billion valuation, right? Combined 15% stake sale. It has happened. Haldiram is on fire, and there's no stopping the juggernaut that is Haldiram. I want Haldiram's. We discussed Haldiram's in depth, right? So Haldiram's could be the face of Indian food across the world. So all the restaurants, all the snacks and so on and so forth, face of Indian food. That should be the story that Haldiram sells, in my opinion, because that could basically put Haldiram in the league of, let's say, Starbucks or McDonald's, and even better. So McDonald's is a $225 billion company. Starbucks is a $150 billion company. Why should Haldiram's be like a $10-15 billion company, right? Haldiram's is looking at starting franchisees with other companies, right? Like it's bringing some Western chains. We talked about it. Instead of that, Indian food, the face of Indian food across the world. That should be the story. Let's see if that happens. But for now, maybe it could be their tagline. It would work phenomenally well in the Western markets. So Indian food has a lot of brand equity across the globe. Africa, US, Europe, Australia, every continent loves Indian food. There are people, Indians are everywhere, right? All those Indians would really back that up. And Haldiram's has a snack, the FMCG business, that is a good representation of Indian food. The restaurant business could scale. By the way, the money they raised, they didn't dilute the restaurant business. They've kept it separate. But If Haldiram scales with that vision, instead of diluting its vision by opening up foreign franchisees, that's no good thing. But unfortunately, that's what they're doing. But face of Indian food, that could be a really good sell, right? With that, we come to the end of 190. Even in Vietnam, separate Indian food. Yes, absolutely, Mr. Tiwari. I went to Kenya. They had Indian food, very good one, right? So, with this, we come to the end of the 195th episode of Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. It's 9:24. We should punch in anytime soon. I wish you a beautiful day personally and professionally. I'll see you not tomorrow, on Monday, same place, same time, hopefully, right? See you on Monday, folks. Have a beautiful weekend. I should thank Mr. Magesh Mani, Mr. Tushar Tiwari, Mr. Abhishek Sharma, Mr. Guitar Beginners, Mr. Sumanth Kumar, my biggest patron. Thank you. Thank you. uh, Mr. Ankur Pandit, Mr. Avijit Kumawat, and everybody else who joined. I hope you had fun. I'll see you on Monday. Take care. Bye bye.